A shy nursing student missed her clinical shift to bandage, a stranger's wound. The next day, a CEO came looking for her. Seattle. Monday morning. 6:58 a.m. The sky was a pale, bruised gray, clouds heavy with the weight of snow that had not yet melted. Fog clung low to the sidewalks, and the streets were quiet, still shivering from the weekend storm. Iris Moreno ran. Her breath came in short, sharp clouds. Her shoes, second-hand white sneakers meant for hospital floors, slipped slightly against the icy pavement. She clutched her faded blue backpack to her chest, the straps fraying from years of use. Inside it, a clean-pressed white lab coat, her nursing student ID, a notebook covered in handwritten diagrams and taped corners, a well-used stethoscope, and a plastic water bottle that had seen better days. She had 13 minutes left. 13 minutes to reach the hospital and clock in for her final clinical rotation, the last requirement before graduation. Missing it would mean automatic failure. No degree, no license, no job, no future. Her chest tightened. She whispered to herself like a mantra between every pounding footstep. Just get there today. Just today. Then everything will be okay. She turned the corner onto Jefferson Avenue, where a few commuters waited at the bus stop, wrapped in scarves and headphones. Steam rose from manholes. Street lamps still glowed dimly, not ready to surrender to the morning light. And then she saw him. A man, older, maybe late 60s, was collapsed on the edge of the sidewalk, lying face down in the slush. Blood seeped from a jagged wound just above his brow, streaking across his temple and matting his silver hair. One arm was outstretched, trembling faintly. No one moved. A businessman in a dark coat paused, pulled out his phone to take a picture, then kept walking. A woman glanced briefly, then looked away, adjusting her earbuds. Iris froze. She looked down at her watch. 6:59. She was 8 blocks from the hospital. If she left now, if she ran, she might just make it. But the man groaned, a weak, breathless sound. His fingers scraped the icy ground, reaching blindly. Please. The word barely left his lips. Her heart was beating too loud. Her fingers tightened around the backpack strap. Her feet were stuck. 5 seconds passed. Then she dropped the bag. She knelt beside him, her knees pressing into the wet concrete. Her hands fumbled at first, then moved with the steadiness of someone who had practiced this in simulation labs dozens of times, but never like this. Never with real blood soaking through her sleeves. She scanned his body quickly. The bleeding was coming from a deep laceration across his forehead, likely caused by a fall onto the pavement. No other visible injuries. Breathing, shallow. Pulse, thready. "Sir," she said, voice shaking but clear, "I'm going to help you, okay? Stay with me." She yanked off her scarf, already damp, and pressed it gently but firmly to his forehead, applying direct pressure to the wound. It wasn't enough. She needed to secure it. Without hesitation, she pulled the belt from her waist and tied it tightly over the scarf, anchoring the makeshift dressing against his head. Her fingers were numb, slick with blood, shaking from cold and adrenaline. He coughed softly, and she adjusted his position, careful not to jostle his neck, tilting his chin slightly to keep the airway open. She leaned close, watching his chest rise, barely. The world around her blurred. No more footsteps, no more traffic, just the sound of her own breathing, and his, thin, uneven, fading. She pulled her phone from her pocket with one bloody hand and dialed 911. "This is Iris Moreno," she said, voice trembling. "I'm a nursing student. I found a man with a head injury on Jefferson Avenue near the bus stop. He's conscious but losing blood. I've applied pressure, but he needs immediate transport." Help was coming, but she could not leave. She looked down at the man again, his eyes fluttering open for just a second, locking with hers. And in that moment, she knew. There would be no clinical shift today. She would not graduate on time, but she had made her choice. She had chosen him. Iris tightened the improvised bandage and checked the man's breathing again. His exhales were shallow, barely misting the icy air. The cold made each breath rattle through him like cracked glass. She forced herself to think clearly. Airway. Breathing. Circulation. She reached for her water bottle, unscrewed the lid with trembling fingers, and pulled out the flimsy plastic straw inside. It was weak, but it could help. She carefully tilted the man's chin and used the straw to gently reposition his airway, keeping it open enough for air to pass through more smoothly. His chest rose, a little steadier now. "You're okay," she whispered, even though she was not sure he could hear her. "You're going to be okay. Stay with me." She adjusted the belt pressing against his forehead, tightening it until the flow of blood slowed to a sluggish seep. Her scarf, soaked in red, was wrapped beneath the belt, pressing against the deep cut just above his right brow. Her knees were soaking in melted snow, her sleeves stained dark red. Her breath came out in shaky bursts, fogging the air around them. 14 minutes. That was how long she remained kneeling there, pressing, monitoring, whispering reassurance into the fog, before the wail of an ambulance finally cut through the morning silence. The moment she saw the flashing lights, her body sagged with relief. 2 EMTs jumped out, and one of them, a woman with quick hands and warm eyes, assessed the situation instantly. "What do we have?" "Deep head laceration. Forehead," Iris said, voice hoarse. "Significant blood loss. He was semi-conscious when I arrived. I stabilized his airway with a straw, just enough to keep it open." "You did the right thing," the EMT said, nodding with genuine respect. "You kept him stable. Another few minutes and this could have gone the other way." As they lifted him onto the stretcher, Iris stepped back. Her palms were sticky, her knees ached, her jaw trembled. But she forced herself to inhale slowly, deeply. She had saved him. She had really saved him. Then she glanced at her watch. 7:11 a.m. Her heart stopped. 11 minutes late. She grabbed her backpack from the slush, not noticing the smear of dirt and blood streaking its side. Her nursing notebook slipped from her hands and landed open on the ground, pages soaking instantly. She snatched it up anyway and ran, ignoring the sting in her legs, the cold biting into her fingers, her breath tearing through her chest. By the time she reached the hospital, her shoes squeaked against the polished floor, drawing stares. She burst into the clinical wing, gasping. "Room 214. Clinical Evaluation Unit." She pounded on the door. "Please, please, I'm here." The door opened just enough for Professor Miriam Tolland to appear. Her hair was tucked into a severe bun, her expression stiff as frozen stone. "Iris Moreno," she said flatly. "You are late for your clinical shift." "I know," Iris whispered, chest heaving. "I'm so sorry. There was a man on the street. He was bleeding. I had to—" Miriam raised a hand, cutting her off. "The first-minute clinical check-in is mandatory. You missed it. Therefore, you do not qualify for graduation this semester." Iris stared at her. "But I saved someone's life." "That," Miriam replied coolly, "was not your responsibility this morning." Her voice was cold, clinical. "Healthcare is not built on emotions, Miss Moreno. It is built on discipline. You failed to follow it." And she closed the door, right in Iris's face. The door clicked shut behind her with a hollow thud. Iris stood still in her small, dimly lit apartment, barely big enough for a twin bunk bed, a folding desk, and a shared bathroom down the hall. The walls were thin, the heater rattled every 15 minutes, and the light bulb above the sink flickered like it, too, had given up. She dropped her backpack to the floor. It landed with a wet thump. Her hands, still sticky with half-dried blood, trembled as she unbuttoned her lab coat. She peeled it off slowly, sleeves stiff from the cold and the crimson that stained them. The coat slid off her shoulders and landed in the sink like a defeated flag. She turned on the faucet, Ice-cold water poured over her fingers. She scrubbed and scrubbed. The blood didn't come off easily. It had settled into the lines of her palms, dried beneath her fingernails. She kept rubbing, harder and harder, until her knuckles were raw. Her reflection in the mirror above the sink looked pale and hollow-eyed, but she didn't flinch. She had seen that girl before. No tears came. Only silence. She sat on the edge of her bed, still in her scrubs, arms wrapped around herself like armor. She stared at the floor. Her phone vibrated against the mattress. One message. A classmate. Heard you missed your shift 'cause you were saving someone. Lol. Drama queen much. She didn't reply. The screen dimmed, then turned black. Another notification popped up, this time, official. You are currently ineligible for graduation this semester. Please contact the School of Nursing for further guidance. Iris read the words twice, then again. It didn't matter how many times she read them, they stayed the same. Her chest didn't rise in a sob, her eyes didn't well up. She just sat there, breathing shallowly, listening to the distant sound of someone laughing down the hall. A neighbor's TV hummed through the wall, muffled and indifferent. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft, dispassionate, steady. In the silence, Iris finally allowed herself a single whisper. I did the right thing. But the words didn't echo. They just vanished into the cold air. Her dream, 4 years of 3 a.m. study sessions, overnight shifts, and working 2 jobs to pay rent, was now reduced to a single sentence in her student portal, ineligible to graduate. She slid the phone under her pillow and laid down fully dressed, curling toward the wall. The bed creaked, her breath fogged the air in front of her. She did not cry. She had learned long ago that pain could exist without tears. And tonight, it did. Quiet, heavy, final. She closed her eyes and tried to remember what it felt like to believe in a future. It was 11:48 p.m. The wind howled through the cracks of Iris's drafty window, rattling the pane like it was knocking for entry. She sat, slouched at her desk, a tattered nursing textbook open in front of her, its pages curling at the edges from water damage. She wasn't reading it, just flipping through aimlessly, as if trying to remember what ambition used to feel like. Then, 3 knocks, slow, measured, unmistakable. She froze. For a moment, she just stared at the door, unsure if she had imagined it. No one ever visited her. Not this late. Not ever. Another knock. Iris rose cautiously and stepped to the door. She opened it just a crack. A man stood there. Tall, clean-cut, in a dark wool coat. His posture was calm, his face unreadable. Under the porch light, his hair gleamed gold-brown, neatly styled. He looked out of place, like someone from a different world entirely. "Miss Moreno?" he asked. His voice was deep and warm, the kind that made people stop and listen. She blinked. "Yes? I'm sorry to disturb you so late," he said gently. "But I believe you're the one who helped my father this morning." Iris hesitated, pulling the door open just a little wider. Who?" The man took a step closer but kept a respectful distance. "My name is Adrian Hale. My father, Marcus Hale, collapsed near Jefferson Avenue earlier today. Head trauma, blood loss." He paused, watching her carefully. "He is alive, because of you." Iris's mouth parted, but no words came. "I saw the security footage," Adrian continued, his voice softer now. "You knelt beside him, in the cold. Your hands were shaking. You looked at your watch 3 times, and you stayed." She dropped her gaze. "I didn't know who he was. I couldn't leave." There was a long silence. Then Adrian exhaled slowly. "You missed something important, didn't you?" She nodded, eyes stinging suddenly. "It was my final clinical shift. If you miss the start, you fail. No graduation, no license." She swallowed. "But I couldn't let him die. I had to try." He looked at her for a long time. Something softened in his eyes. "My father is still alive because you chose humanity over protocol," he said. "That is something I'll never forget." He reached into his coat and pulled out a cream-colored envelope. He offered it to her. "I didn't come just to say thank you," Adrian said. "I came because this, what happened to you today, isn't acceptable." Inside the envelope was a formal letter of invitation, an administrative hearing at the university, with representatives from the Board of Nursing and the National Medical Scholarship Foundation. Hale Technologies, Adrian's company, had helped fund both. "I know what your dream means to you," he said, his voice steady. "And I know it was almost taken away because you chose to do what was right." She clutched the envelope in both hands, barely breathing. "Iris," he said, her name grounding the moment. "If the system refuses to recognize compassion, then maybe it's time to challenge the system. But I cannot do that without you." Her lips parted, a breath escaping like a question she had not yet asked. "Please," Adrian added, "stand up for yourself. You're not alone anymore." And for the first time since that morning, Iris felt something unexpected press against the sadness in her chest. Hope. The meeting room was small, windowless, and far too quiet. Iris stood just outside the door, pausing for one breath longer than necessary. She smoothed the sleeves of her plain white blouse, checked the envelope in her hand, then stepped inside. Her shoulders were drawn tight, chin lowered, but her eyes, though shy, no longer looked afraid. 4 people sat at the long table. Adrian Hale looked up first. He offered a small nod, calm, reassuring. Though he wore a tailored gray suit, there was no performance in his posture. No mask, only presence. Beside him, a woman from the National Medical Scholarship Foundation greeted Iris with a gentle smile. Across from them, Hale Tech's legal counsel flipped casually through a thick folder. At the end of the table sat Professor Miriam Tolland, arms folded, spine straight, face hard as ever. Iris took the empty seat between Adrian and the Foundation representative. Her heart thudded loud enough that she wondered if it was audible. Miriam adjusted her glasses and spoke without so much as a nod of acknowledgement. Miss Moreno arrived 11 minutes late to her clinical shift. No advance notice was given. Policy dictates ineligibility for graduation this term. Silence fell. Then Hale Tech's lawyer slid a flash drive across the table. "With permission," he said, his tone professional. A screen came alive on the wall behind them. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. Jefferson Avenue, morning fog. A man collapsed on the sidewalk. Iris, dropping her bag, kneeling beside him, hands moving with quiet, focused urgency. Miriam barely glanced at the screen. "This is irrelevant. The subject of this meeting is—" "It is entirely relevant," Adrian interrupted, calm but unshakable. While dozens passed him by, a nursing student stopped. She stabilized a man with a serious head injury and remained until help arrived. "That is not a failure. That is the definition of healthcare." Miriam's mouth tightened. She said nothing. The woman from the foundation leaned forward. "Our mission is to support students who show both skill and empathy under pressure." Miss Moreno demonstrated both. If she is not worthy of this profession, who is? Iris looked down, her cheeks flushed, but beneath the heat was something else, a quiet bloom of pride. Then came the next blow. The Hale Tech attorney placed a folder on the table. Over the past 3 years, 9 scholarship recipients failed to graduate due to infractions, classified as minor, late arrivals, incomplete paperwork, single absences. All were from disadvantaged backgrounds. All were dismissed following a single administrative signature. He opened the folder. That signature belonged to Miriam Tolland. A tense, weighted silence filled the room. Adrian stood. "We are not asking for special treatment," he said. "We are asking what kind of values this institution is passing on. If saving a man's life earns punishment instead of support, then we are not teaching medicine. We are teaching fear." No one replied. The meeting adjourned 30 minutes later. But when Iris stepped out, her chest felt lighter than it had in weeks. The next evening, precisely at 5 p.m., she sat cross-legged on her mattress, laptop in front of her. The email arrived with a soft ping. One unread message. Subject: Academic status update. Her hands shook as she clicked. You have been approved to participate in a supplementary clinical rotation next Tuesday, along with 3 other students. This is your final opportunity to meet graduation requirements. Please prepare accordingly. Department of Nursing. She read it once, then again, then a third time. Tears welled, not from grief, but from something softer. She whispered aloud, to no one but herself, I still have a chance. Below the message, a list of names. Danny, Kevin, Noor. All familiar, students who had once shared desks and study guides, then vanished, unspoken, unnoticed. No one ever explained, no one asked. But now, they were returning, together. Her phone buzzed. Adrian Hale. She answered. Hello? I just received confirmation, Adrian said. The university approved the supplemental rotation. He paused. It is not everything, but it is a beginning, and you earned it. Iris swallowed. Thank you, not just for the help, but for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. A quiet pause passed. Then, softer. Iris, do you know what made me stop when I first saw that security footage? She said nothing, waiting. It was the way you looked at my father, like nothing else mattered but making sure he lived. That look, it said everything. His voice deepened. There are people you meet who change what you believe about the world, just by how they act when no one's watching. You're one of them. She did not speak, but her heart absorbed every word. That night, she slept without dreams of failure, without the echo of closing doors. Only the image of a sunlit hospital room, filled with second chances. And for the first time, Iris believed. She had been seen, she mattered. And someone was waiting, quietly, faithfully, just to see her keep going. The clinical rotation felt different this time. Not like a punishment, not like a test, but a quiet affirmation. Iris stepped through the hospital's back entrance with Danny, Kevin, and Noor, 3 names that had once vanished from attendance lists, now walking beside her with steady steps. They were no longer shadows of students who had been left behind. They were here because someone believed they deserved to finish. The air in the clinical wing was cool, sterile, filled with the scent of antiseptic and fresh linens. But for Iris, it smelled like something else today, hope. Adrian was already inside. He stood near the observation window, reviewing a clipboard, his usual tailored blazer replaced by a more relaxed navy sweater. Though his position was supervising observer, his eyes, calm, thoughtful, were focused only on her. Throughout the shift, Iris moved with quiet confidence. Her touch was gentle, her voice firm, her steps sure. She assisted with a wound dressing in room 3, speaking softly to an elderly patient while preparing a sterile tray. Mid-procedure, a small clatter startled her. Her glove pack slipped from the counter. Before she could reach down, Adrian was already beside her. Without a word, he held out a fresh pair. Their fingers brushed. A fleeting second, too quick to name, too slow to ignore. Their eyes met, the contact electric and unfamiliar. She looked away first, cheeks warm. He looked down, clearing his throat. The moment passed, but something lingered in the space between them. Later, Iris stood alone in the supply room, scrubbing her hands under cold water. The hum of the building filled the silence. Her heart still raced, not from pressure, but something quieter, unfamiliar. A soft knock at the open door. Adrian leaned against the frame, holding a bottle of water and wearing a smile that looked like it had been waiting all day. "You did well today," he said. "Better than well." Iris dried her hands, unsure what to say. "Thanks." He hesitated. I have a question. For this Sunday." She raised her brows. He stepped inside, voice a little lower, a little more careful. "My dad, he wants to meet you." Her breath caught. Adrian continued, slowly. "Actually," he insisted, "the moment he woke up in the hospital he asked, 'Who saved me?' He has not stopped asking since." Iris leaned back against the counter, eyes wide. "I didn't know that was your father." He nodded. "You could not have known, and yet you stayed with him." Silence bloomed, thick but not uncomfortable. Then he said it, soft, honest. "He owes you his life. And I do too." The sincerity in his voice did not need decoration. It did not need music or perfect words. It landed gently in the space between them, unfolding something tender. Iris smiled, not fully understanding where this was going, but also not afraid anymore. "I'd like to meet him," she said softly. "Good," Adrian replied, the corners of his mouth lifting. "Because he already thinks of you as someone special." She shook her head, half laughing. "You really do not need to exaggerate," she said. "I'm not," he said. "You will see." They stood like that for a few more seconds, quiet, still, the sound of running water forgotten. Something had changed. Not loud, not rushed, but something that had been frozen for a long time had started to thaw, and both of them felt it, even if neither could yet name it. Not love, not yet, but the beginning of something real. Sunday morning arrived draped in golden light, soft and promising. Iris stood in front of her mirror, smoothing the collar of her crisp white blouse. Her dark hair was tied neatly at the nape of her neck. In her hands, she held a small brown box wrapped in twine, a gift of homemade herbal tea, carefully chosen and quietly heartfelt. She had no idea what to expect. Adrian drove her to a quiet neighborhood tucked between old maple trees and modest wooden homes. The streets were still damp from an early mist. His father's house sat at the corner, small but warm-looking, with lavender pots hanging from the porch railings and a wooden wind chime ticking softly in the breeze. Adrian parked but said nothing. He gestured gently for her to go ahead. Before she could knock, the front door opened. A man stood in the doorway, older, his silver hair combed neatly back, a cane in one hand, a cardigan in a deep olive tone wrapped around his frame. His face lit up the moment his eyes met hers, as though he'd just found something he thought he had lost. "Iris," he said, voice thick with warmth. "My girl, you're finally here." She froze. He stepped forward, steady despite the cane, and took her hand in both of his. His grip was gentle but firm. He held it as if grounding himself in the present moment. "I had a dream," he said. "I was lying on the sidewalk, freezing, fading, ready to slip away. Then this young woman came to me, no hesitation, no fear, just heart. She brought me back. That was you." Iris's throat tightened. "I only did what anyone would have." "No, sweetheart," he interrupted gently, shaking his head. "You did what most people didn't. I've thrown dinners for senators, shaken hands with CEOs, but I've rarely seen someone put another person's life ahead of their own future. You didn't just act, you sacrificed, and that takes courage I didn't always have." Behind them, Adrian watched quietly, not interfering. Lunch was served at a small oak table in the kitchen, the sun filtering in through gauzy curtains. The food was simple: roast chicken, garden vegetables, warm bread, but Iris felt honored by the care in every detail. She told stories of her grandmother, the one who raised her, about nights working at the campus clinic, about dreaming of helping people who had no one else. Marcus listened with rare attention, nodding, occasionally sighing, his eyes full of something deeper than gratitude. Then, between bites of dessert, he leaned back in his chair, looked at Adrian, and said, "I used to think you'd bring home someone polished, but now I see, what matters isn't polish. It's heart. I hope the woman you choose one day is someone who can heal others, and you." Adrian looked stunned. Iris, mid-sip of tea, coughed quietly into her napkin. Marcus turned to her with a mischievous glint. "A daughter-in-law like that? I'd say you already qualify." Color flooded Iris's face. She lowered her gaze. Adrian quickly stood to refill the teapot. "Dad, I've never," Iris stammered, barely audible. Marcus chuckled, clapping once. "Relax, just teasing. But I mean it when I say, if Adrian's future includes someone like you, I'll be the proudest man around." The rest of the meal passed with warmth and laughter, the awkward moment gently folded into something familiar. On the drive home, silence wrapped around them like a shared comfort. Iris looked out the window, fingers resting on the tea box Marcus had insisted on keeping close, only after promising to brew it every Sunday morning. "I'm not used to adults liking me," she said quietly. "Especially not right away." Adrian kept his eyes on the road but replied softly, "My dad doesn't say things like that to anyone. He saw something in you." He paused. "So do I." They arrived at her building. Iris unbuckled and reached for the door. Then his voice stopped her. "Iris." She turned. Adrian met her gaze. "If my dad jokes about you being family one day, I hope you know, I don't think it's such a crazy idea." The door closed behind her with a gentle click, but in the car's window reflection, her smile remained, faint and blooming, like something quietly taking root. June sunlight bathed the lawn of Seattle College in gold. It was the kind of morning that made people believe in new beginnings. Rows of nursing graduates stood proudly in their caps and gowns, waiting to hear their names. Among them stood Iris Moreno. Her gown fitted perfectly, her hair tucked in a neat bun. Her hands held her diploma folder tightly, but her heart, surprisingly, was calm. From the stage, she scanned the audience. Mr. Marcus Hale waved excitedly from the front row, silver hair gleaming. A few rows back stood Adrian, camera in hand, still and steady. He wasn't waving, just watching. Quiet, constant, present. When her name rang through the microphone, applause erupted. But Iris only saw Adrian's soft smile, the small nod he gave, just for her. After the ceremony, Iris didn't scramble for jobs. 2 weeks earlier, she had received a letter, a full-time ICU position at one of Seattle's top hospitals. No interviews, no tests. A recommendation from Marcus Hale had quietly moved everything forward. 3 months later, she was exactly where she was meant to be. In scrubs, fueled by caffeine, Iris worked the ICU floor. Emergencies, sleepless nights, families waiting outside closed doors. Through it all, she remained composed, compassionate, calm. "I want to be the person patients feel safe waking up to," she'd said during her first team briefing. And she was. Every day. Outside the hospital, Adrian never announced himself, but he was always there. A warm container of rice and vegetables waited on her doorstep after long shifts. A bundle of dried lavender with a note, "You save others, don't forget to rest." No signature, but she knew. There were no declarations, just quiet rhythms, shared umbrellas in rain, a brush of hands near the coffee pot, a glance held too long across a cafe table. One cold evening in November, Iris received a message. Green Lake Park, near the water, 5 p.m. When she arrived, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the lake in amber. Trees rustled gently above a wooden table where 2 porcelain mugs steamed beside a sealed envelope. Adrian stood nearby in a soft gray sweater. He didn't speak until she reached him. "Open it," he said. Inside the envelope was a photo, grainy but clear. It was her, kneeling in the snow, hands red with blood, eyes focused. On the back, handwritten in blue ink. From that moment, I knew. If I could walk through life with anyone, it would be you. When Iris looked up, Adrian was already kneeling. "Iris Moreno," he said, voice steady. "You saved my father's life. And slowly, without even trying, You saved me. From doubt, from silence, from believing the world was colder than it is. He exhaled softly. I know you don't like attention. You don't need diamonds. You don't need a crowd. Just this. One moment. One question. He reached into his coat and revealed a small velvet box, plain and unadorned. Will you let me care for you, the way you've always cared for everyone else? Be the person I wake up every morning hoping to protect. Will you walk beside me, through storms, through quiet, through joy? Her eyes welled with tears, not of surprise, but of something long held finally being received. She whispered, voice trembling, I think I've been saying yes since the first day. He rose, and she stepped into his arms. And in the amber light of autumn, as leaves danced around them, Iris finally allowed herself to believe. She was seen, she was chosen, she was loved. Some people go their whole lives quietly saving others, forgetting they deserve to be held too. But there are still people who see them and choose to love them not through grand gestures, but with quiet, unwavering presence. Kindness doesn't make you weak, it makes you unforgettable. Thank you for watching this heartwarming journey of Iris Moreno, a quiet nursing student who chose kindness when no one else did, and in doing so, found love, purpose, and a place where she truly belonged. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you believe in the power of quiet courage, don't forget to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories and hit that hype button to support our channel. We bring you stories that heal, stories that matter, because the world needs more of them. Until next time, stay kind, stay brave, stay stirred.